Alcon coming at you today from the Tobacco Company in Lemoyne, Pennsylvania. Smoking on my A.J. Fernandez New World cigar. It was rated one of the top 25 I think last year, and it's pretty tasty. Let's get into today's topic of discussion, and that's the reasoning why ETA is cutting everyone off from their movements. I've watched some YouTube videos and people are talking about ETA doing it, but they don't give a reason why. And I'm going to give you the reasons why today. There's a couple. God rest his soul. Mr. Nick Hayek Sr. started this about maybe 10 to 15 years ago, if not a little bit more. I've been collecting wristwatches for about 30 years. So if you're a newbie, you may not know some of this stuff, but Nick's the one that started it. And at the time, there's a Swiss competition commission. He went to them and he said he wanted to cut everyone off. And they wanted to know why he wanted to cut everyone off. And his reasoning at that time was, he said, look, I can barely keep up with making all the movements for the companies that I own, besides supplying these outside suppliers, which is untrue. ETA can pump out millions and millions and millions of movements a year. But the real reason behind this is Mr. Hayek found out counterfeiters were using his movements in watches. This was a big to-do back in the day. They confiscated a major shipment. They opened them up and they found out a lot of these movements inside of these watches were ETA movements. This pissed this man off. He's selling to these outside suppliers. They in turn are selling it to the Chinese, Japanese, or whoever, and then they're making replica watches using his movements. Reason number two is a gentleman by the name of Frank Mueller. When he first came on the scene, Frank was the biggest name in wristwatches. If you know anything about watches or if you're into it, you might want to check that out. And what Frank was doing is buying low-grade ETA movements, putting them in his watches, and charging you at least a minimum of around $5,000 and up, you know, to get in his club. Mr. Hayek wasn't pleased with this. You know, he thought that these companies that were charging all this money to buy their watches, you know, should make their own movements. You know, so the way you and me as a customer, we're getting some value for our money. So, you know, Frank is putting a basic $100 movement in his watch, and he's selling it to us for $5,000. You know, which is unfair. So those are the two main reasons why he wanted to do it, and he thought people should produce their own movements for the watch industry to grow. You know, if you want to grow anything, you know, like with, say, like Apple, they keep coming out with new products. I may not like everything they have, but to grow as a company, you know, they did the iPad that made them grow more. They're doing the Apple Watch, you know, which sales are going through the roof, which is going to make the company grow more. And, you know, that's what you have to do to grow an industry. And he felt that these other people, they were just riding off of his back. He was doing all the work, you know. He was doing the manufacturing. He was doing the designing, the building, everything. And they would just come in and say, okay, I want to buy 5,000 movements from you. And he thought that that wasn't a good idea to keep the Swiss wristwatch industry going. And I believe the same thing he does. This is not good. You go out and buy yourself a $5,000 Breitling, but Breitling doesn't use the cheapest movements inside their watches, but still, it's a few $100s more. They were just slapping them on the inside. And then when he wanted to do it, the Swiss Competition Commission said, you know, you have to give these people a chance to build their own movements, because he wanted to cut them off 15 years ago. They said you can't do it because you have to give them a chance to design their own movements, test them, put them in their watches. And that's the reason why these companies are doing this now. I was checking out one of the comments in someone's video, and they said the reason why these companies are designing these movements and coming up with all these in-house products is so that they can charge you more money. No, that's not the case. The reason being because Nick 15 years ago or so said he was cutting them off. This agency allowed him to do it, but after 5 years he could cut so much off. After 10 years he could cut so much off. After 15 years he could cut so much off. Now it's at the point where he can cut almost everyone off, and I think it's in a year or two. If he doesn't want to supply you, even though it's not him, it's his son running the company now, but if they don't want to supply you, they don't have to anymore. And I think this is a good thing for the consumer out there. Once again, it's a StyleCon. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I do plan on making a lot more content in the near future. Please subscribe if you like. And as usual, I'll see you in the next video.